Carrie George, folks, is a revenue mentor with 9 strategies to increase revenue for any business. But her focus is really membership and subscriptions-based businesses and coaches who want to rock their revenue. And I know so many of you have subscription-based and membership programs, so this should be of real interest. Carrie's 9 strategies will bring you an additional $150,000 per strategy year, and she will keep you on the edge of your seat with the stories of success that she has brought to business owners on the worldwide stage. Carrie's a hard hitter, and you can count on her to ask tough questions that'll get you to think. After working with thousands of entrepreneurs a year for more than a decade in the global space, she is a mentor on steroids. I love that. She has time-saving solutions and no-nonsense answers that work, and she is quick to tell you where to stop wasting your money and your effort. You'll find her to be quick-witted, edgy, funny, fast-paced, and with high impact. Carrie, I am just so excited about having you here. And I wonder if you could give people a little bit of a background as to how you actually developed this expertise.
Yeah, absolutely. So I got started in business shortly out of high school. There's background and other things that I've done, but I think I started out in the sales world selling stuff, and I sucked. I was terrible.
That makes 2 of us.
Now, over time, I did learn, and I actually am a very good salesperson today. But back then, when you're first getting started and you're full of great ideas and vim and vinegar, but not so much with stick-to-itness and not so much with, the right procedures, so we all have to start somewhere. But along the way, I started a marketing business when social media marketing was new. I was one of the first, gurus of that. And why would you call yourself a guru? Well, I had 5,000 friends on Facebook before anyone else had any.
Oh, right. I don't think I have 5,000 friends on Facebook right now, but that's because I'm on different social media.
Right. So, way back when in 2010. And so, that's what I was doing. I was getting on social media as it was new. And I quickly learned how to turn what I was doing into revenue. And then I started selling that to businesses back in 2010, 2011. And then by 2012, I went out and I started doing business networking, going to networking events and finding out where's a good place to get clients. And it really worked for me. I started getting a lot of business from networking. And as a result, I started volunteering at a business network. And then I took over my first business network in 2011 and started to grow business networks. The kind of thing where people get together and have lunch together and there's one person per industry and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So I bought the Old Boys Club in 2012. That was fun. In an oil and gas
thing. How cool is that? I love that.
And that started putting me in front of business owners like every day of the week, at least 5 days a week. I was in front of business owners and we were doing networking and we were doing masterminds. Okay. And today, to this date, I've done more than 8,000 networking meetings personally. And I've facilitated more than 2,000 mastermind strategy sessions. So that's why I'm on steroids, because I've seen more and done more than most, you could pack the room full of coaches, and I've been in front of more businesses because of just that experience of running this business network. Sure. And then in 2019, it went global, and it's been crazy.
That's just amazing. What a great example of doing this for success, and the whole repackaging concept right now is just so in the forefront. Not obviously you are an early adapter, but I think people are more and more understanding that they really do need to repackage in order to make more revenue. And I'm wondering what the first piece of advice you would give to someone is about their packaging or their products.
That's a great question. I think one of the things is we get stuck in what we're doing. Okay. Now I've been doing this for more than a decade now. So, and I've been in front of all kinds of businesses. So storefront businesses, or, you get a massage therapist, for example, a spa. And, these are storefront. People are walking in to come in and do this business, right? To come in and clients are coming right in. And they're so stuck in what they're doing. They can't see beyond the problem, and most of the problem is showing up in lack of time and lack of money. That's usually what's happening. They're struggling with those things, and that's what's hitting the base that this is a problem. What they're not realizing is that it often comes down to how they've packaged their services. Okay. And the same is true even with products. Okay. We've put it together usually because we thought that was the way to do it. We saw it someone else maybe. We're taking a guess, a gut feeling. We're not using data. And we often haven't even gone out into the market to see what is going on in the market. And so we get stuck in what we're doing, and we start selling our service for whatever it is, and it's coming underneath of what we need. And we can't quite figure out what the problem is. Well, oftentimes if we put things together in a package, and added some value to it, we could charge more, or we could charge consistently in a different way. And one of the things right now that is really, really big is the coaching industry is jumped by about 800% in the last few years.
I hadn't realized that. 800%?
Yes. So there's a lot of coaches on the market, a lot of people that have taken coaching training of a variety of sorts. And they're all being, oftentimes they have a little bit of mentoring maybe by someone that they took a course from. And they're trying to implement the model by which they were shown. And oftentimes what I'm seeing out there in the market, Dr. Dumont, is that I'm seeing this stuff like, it reminds me of when people they go get an education. Young person go gets an education in something that they like. They don't think about how much is it going to pay me and can I survive with that, right? And the same thing is true with these coaching packages. They get into this, they go, I'll do this because this is what this coach said. And oftentimes it's like $300 for a course, $600 for a course is what I'm going to charge, or I'm going to do $1,800 for 3 months. And these are transactional sales. And transactional sales, they just suck, I got to tell you. Because you got to keep selling. You got to sell and sell and sell and sell. Because if you stop selling, what happens is you sell, and you put out this special, you do a launch. They showed me how to do a launch. Oh, it was so exciting. And I go, whoop, up goes the revenue because the launch worked. Thankfully, sometimes it works.
Yeah, that's a whole nother topic.
That's a whole other thing, which we can talk about another day. But let's just say it worked. Well, then it looks great. Like the revenue goes up to here. The problem is we now get busy servicing those clients. And as we're servicing the clients, we stop marketing. So, and we got these great big high peaks and valleys as our business goes up and down and up and down and up and down. And we're getting whiplash.
Oh, been there, done that. I totally agree. Yes, it is.
Absolutely painful. And what we don't think about is, like, when I'm talking to coaches about repackaging, I'm often finding out that they have the goodies, they have the stuff. They could actually take a client from A to B and give them really good results if they worked with them for more than like a year instead of a 3-month program. But instead they try to sell an $1,800 package for 3 months and then upsell to the next level, a 6-month program. And what they end up doing is losing half the clientele. Well, why not just say it's $1,000 a month and I'm going to work with you for a year and we're going to create these transformations in your life or in your business or whatever it is that we're working on. And we sign up clients for a year instead of these short things that keep us going.
Oh, and losing a lot of sleep. That feast or famine cycle when you wake up at 2 a.m. going, are they going to shut my water off today?
Right?
I've actually been there. I recognize it. And so many times what we're taught about packaging isn't even helpful.
No. So this is what I do with clients. I sit down with them and I actually look at, well, what are you charging? What is this? I check the market and go, what is the going rate for this? How could this be packaged differently that we could do some kind of value add? And is it possible that we could get somebody to pay us monthly for this service instead of one-offs or 3 months or short-term contracts or just a course or something? Because if we can move into that realm, just imagine with me for a minute. Let's say we could convince people that we're all that in a bag of chips and they can spend $1,000 a month on us, and we start to deliver something that they need, and they're excited about working with us. And that $1,000 a month keeps coming in, and then we get a second one, and then we get a third one, so that we're not starting the month at zero anymore. We're now starting the month at $3,000 a month. Oh my God.
Yeah,
right?
That's a big difference.
It's a huge difference. And 13 clients at $1,000 a month is $150,000 a year. That's the math.
Okay.
And repackaging is often math.
Well, yeah, and that's very appealing math. That's really amazing for a coach who has never understood this. So what is the first step people have to, or the first thing people have to do to realize that they can get out of that mindset and that feast and famine and move to that year-long model that you're talking about?
That's hard. My first step might be different than yours.
Okay.
And that mindset is a really big part of it. And I think one of the first steps is go get help, get mentored by somebody who's doing it. Because maybe you might know that you need to do it, but the biggest distance we all have to travel is 6 inches. It's right here. Right between our ears here. We've got this idea. Well, my coach before said to charge $1,800 a month, or $1,800 for 3 months. And we're stuck on that. Or $300 for this course, or, so-and-so said. Well, I want to ask, how's that working for you?
Yeah.
Because, if you're slaying it, keep doing it. But you know what? Most people that I'm running into, they are not. And they're working really, really hard for these little sales. And then they have to work just as hard next month for the sales. So how about we rethink what you're offering? How about we start putting it together in a way that it has value, it has the worth of what is common in the market? How about we repackage it, make it pretty, put a bow on it, nice landing page, and then how about we start pitching that as our primary thing? And if we put that in front of enough potential candidates, we should be able to land a client.
Yes. And that one client makes so much difference.
Absolutely. So you add one client on top of another like that, and it becomes very steady and very predictable income. And now you have a basis by which you can build a foundation for the rest of the things that you want to do. So I would say do the course later instead of now, or do the course and put it up in video and make that something that is available for that client, right?
Absolutely.
Rather than you trying to sell this one course continuously, my one signature talk.
Yeah. And instead, you're able to develop this out and have all of this that people can get on an annual basis. So, Carrie, I'm wondering what kinds of strategies, people can use as they're moving in this direction.
There's different kinds of strategies for coaches. I often give them the larger package and the smaller package thing that they should be working on simultaneously. So that when they're talking to that person who says, oh, $1,000 a month, I can't do that. That's too much. So then I train them to say, how much too much is it?
Oh, I like that. How much too much is it?
And then they have a second option, which is usually a group program, about $250 a month. And it's every Wednesday at 2:00 or something like that for 1 hour. And it captures the ones that don't have the $1,000 a month. Yeah. And it gives good value, but you can't work with individuals. You're working with a group of people, maybe an individual out for a few minutes in the hot seat, but working through things. And that is also very beneficial for helping their clients. Sure. Gives them great testimonies as well. So that's a couple strategies just for the coaching industry. But there are strategies really for any kind of business. We just have to look at, what are you selling? How much are you charging? What goes with this? What is the going rate in the market? What could we do to sexy this up? and turn it into a package, it's a no-brainer. And then
Yes.
how can we put it together in a way that it has enough profit in it that you can actually make a living from it, that you can create profitability in your business, instead of this whole idea that it's, it gets developed in the 6 inches that, what am I worth?
Yeah, and I think one of the things that we tend to do in beginning or even seasoned coaches, is that we undervalue, first of all, what our services are, and then, as you said, there are only a finite number of people, first of all, that you can work with on an individual basis, but by just focusing on that and just focusing on, those smaller areas that we are taught early on, it does become stuck. I remember that I was first advised to sell my signature course for $9.97, and that's great. But then I wasn't moving them into the next stage. Someone who's willing to pay, that amount for a 6 or 8 week course isn't necessarily going to want the upsell when you get to the end.
That's right. So instead of doing that, why not just, first of all, ask them flat out if they would like to work with you on an ongoing basis, and you make the course as something that they get immediately when they join you on the ongoing basis. You see, now you have clients that are paying you, instead of $9.97, they're paying you that every month.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, an awful lot of sense. So I can remember when I first started out, I did have a person who said they were a 6-figure coach, and took us through pricing strategy and sales, concepts and all of that. But it didn't work for me.
Right.
And it didn't work for me because it was way too complicated, for one thing. And it was, in that case, what we didn't look at was my own fears about whether what I was offering was of value. And I think that's something that holds us back sometimes. We don't appreciate the value that we have to offer. And I think sometimes it takes talking to someone like you and working with someone like you to really be able to overcome that.
You're actually pinpointing another challenge that people are having, and that is the ability to sell, and to sell in a way that is comfortable for them.
Yes.
And most of the gurus that are training people how to do this, they don't know how to break down their own sales process to tell you what to do. Okay, so now when I'm working with people, I am primarily a salesperson, and I'm not going to frickin' apologize for it. Okay.
Yeah. That's great.
I will show you how. Okay.
Yeah.
It's something that is really, really needed. And I don't have any hang-ups about being a salesperson. I don't think salespeople are bad. And I feel sorry for those who think that, because the whole world runs off of the ability to persuade. Okay. Everything, whether you're trying to convince your 10-year-old to brush their teeth, or whether you are trying to increase your revenue as a business owner, or if you're standing as a clerk at Starbucks, okay?
Yeah.
How you are perceived, how you get ahead in life has everything to do with your ability to sell. And it's a very sad state of affairs that we are not placing enough emphasis on this as a culture, because this is what causes people to be able to get ahead. So now in my organization, CIBN Connect is my networking organization with masterminds and training. We put a lot of emphasis on selling, and can people learn to sell? And we even have a program called the Max Plus program, which is relatively inexpensive. It's like $177 a month USD.
Wow. Yeah.
And it's weekly training on how to sell, how to do an infomercial that works, how to do a one-on-one that converts from that into a sales presentation, how to do a sales presentation, and then how to close, and then how to do the follow-up, because 2/3 of the business, 2/3 of the money that you will get in your lifetime as an entrepreneur will come in the follow-up, not on the presentation. So if you don't have processes for these things, you'll lose so much money. It'll just fall off the table, and you won't even know. You didn't even realize that you missed it. So there needs to be processes for this kind of stuff. And one of the biggest things I find too is scripts. Nobody uses scripts, or I want it all to be very natural. Oh no, what you're actually saying is I want to wing it. Okay. And winging it is KFC. Okay. It is not a sales process. It's for beer and wings night.
Yeah, winging it, and I think we've all been guilty of making that mistake too. You're talking about some of the traps that we all fall into,
right,
on our journey.
Right. So when I'm working with people, if they can't afford the big ticket package to work with me as a consultant, I actually get them into some of these programs where they can learn some of the basic skills, because until you learn to sell, life is going to suck. All right. It is. It's going to be awful, because if you get 200 leads, but you can't close, who cares? And we got people running around.
Exactly.
We're going to get more lead generation. What for? You can't close.
Yeah. My special area is LinkedIn. That's where I apply my trade. And, that ability to follow up, and to do that close is so important. I see all of these lead generation services that spam us constantly.
All the time.
And I'm in lead generation, but you can't do lead generation, doesn't do it all. And you can't, first of all, if someone's referring you, like more than 40 people a week or 20, you can't even develop relationships that way. So it's all about learning to be comfortable with that, and what I try and teach people is there's a process. Yes, we can give you leads, but you have to be able to do the rest of it.
Right.
Leads won't buy your new car. It's just leads are not money on the table.
And you can't take them to the bank and say this is worth this much, because it's not, unless you can close.
That's right. And
then you have the money in the bank, and then you can say I have that in the bank because I was able to close.
So people can take the sales program for a very reasonable, price. I would say, an amazing price for what they're going to get out of it.
Yeah.
So I think
that's a little bit of repackaging work with them in there as well. Just a little bit, because the infomercial is the first step, and that's kind of a repackaging thing. Is how do I say what I need to say to get somebody to go, yes, I'd like to meet with you, or yes, I'd refer my friend to you. So that's important. And I think it's also, when I'm working with my high-end clients, it's also something I work on right away, is that pitch. What are you going to say when you get in front of the ideal client? And will it roll off your tongue because you've been practicing it and you got it? Or again, are you going to wing it in that moment and then go, geez, I met the right person, but they didn't want to talk to me.
There's no substitute for preparation.
Right?
Yeah, you have to do your homework.
And if you've been doing it over and over and over again, and that's one of the things we teach in that sales pitch program is that here's another classic mistake with this whole thing. We change our infomercial every time we say it.
Oh, yeah, no,
you're not collecting data that way. You're winging it, and you don't even know when it went right. You don't even know what you did, because you can't remember.
So how would people gauge that?
Well, if you say the same thing over and over again in front of 100 people, you have math. Sales is math. It's all about math. So if I was in front of 100 people and said the same thing, and I booked 6 appointments from that, I know that I have a 6% times, that I'm booking appointments, right? If it's just like when you're working on LinkedIn, you probably have a scripts that you use, right? And you know which ones work because you're collecting the data. So this is the same kind of thing, only it goes across other platforms.
Sure. Because we all know that things are even better if you can multi-purpose them, for different platforms.
Yeah.
Carrie, what are some of the common barriers you see to people being able to complete sales?
Well, not being prepared is definitely on the list.
Yeah.
Also, now this depends on what you're selling, but you see, if I'm selling something for a company that's already set things up, like let's say I'm a network marketer and I've got a page they've given me and I've got all the products and stuff, I don't know why more people don't succeed at that, because at least they got that part. They got all these pieces. When I'm a coach and nobody has set this up for me, I have to set it up, right? And I think one of the barriers that people are having to making sales is they don't have a simple landing page they could take someone through and close the deal, okay? They don't have a simple script that they're following that leads from one piece into the next. So, and they're like, oh, I've been out networking, but that doesn't work for me. Well, usually within 5 minutes, I can figure out why it's not working for you. It's because you don't have a process where one step is leading to the next. Classic example here, you're meeting people out in the world, face-to-face networking or online. You met your ideal candidate and you had a discussion with them. And I'm going to tell you right now where the ball gets dropped. You don't book the meeting for the next meeting while you're in the meeting. This is classic sales failure 101.
Wow, and that's such a big lesson.
So, if you start doing this one thing better, where, you're watching the time, for example, you've got a half-hour meeting, you're doing a one-on-one with somebody, and you've discovered this person could be your ideal candidate to buy from you.
Yeah.
Well, most people, what they'll do right now is they'll try to pitch them in 5 minutes, and that's a huge failure. Okay.
Yes.
What you want to do is actually book the appointment to do the pitch. You want to say, you know what? Thank you for sharing with me all of this great information that you just gave me. That was totally awesome. Okay. What I want to do with you now is I think I have some great solutions for you and I want to customize them for you. So let's get together again. I've got time on Tuesday at 2 or Thursday at 4, which would be better for you. I'd like to spend about an hour going through some great solutions for you. And usually people are going to go, you got solutions for me? Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
and they book the appointment. And now I've got it in your calendar. You've got it in mine. And we're going to get together to talk specifically about that and have a real sales presentation. And all this comes into repackaging, because if you've repackaged your offer and now you've got a proper procedure leading to the sale, the whole thing is going to work a lot smoother and you're going to be able to make more sales.
Yeah, that reminds me, I come out of higher education, the career development area. And one of the things that we always had to tell people is, well, we were teaching them the elevator pitch. You remember the elevator pitch, which was this, supposedly how much you could pitch on, what was it, the 9th floor or the 10th floor down to the 1st floor. You had this pitch. And I always thought to myself,
you got to make it count.
Well, yeah, and I always had this thought, by the time I got to the 1st floor, I want to run as hard as I can away from you, because all you've done is hit me with a pitch, and how much better to be able to just say to someone, hey, I find this really interesting. I think that this is something that we can explore. I might have some suggestions for you. Let's set an appointment or set up a time to chat. Let's set up a coffee chat, whatever it is, to do that follow-up, and it makes so much more sense,
So that's an interesting, you're making me think of something. When we do the infomercial, I actually teach 5 different methods of doing an infomercial, which is the elevator pitch. And 3 of them are very, very simple. One of them is very common. This is my name, this is what I do, blah, 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 blah. But that's the pitch everyone runs from. It's the thing that everybody knows. Everybody does, but they all run from it because nobody cares. So what if you started your pitch in a completely different way, and we repackaged it, and we said, instead of even saying who you are and what you do, what if you ask a couple of extremely interesting, provocative questions? So what would this look like? So you sell LinkedIn systems, for example, right? So instead of in the elevator explaining that to the person all the way down from the 9th floor to the basement, what if instead you said something like, are you getting a lot of clients from LinkedIn?
No, I'm on it, but I never get any clients.
Right? How often are you on LinkedIn? Do you, do you really like the way your profile is? Something like a couple of curiosity questions, and the person's going, no, actually, I haven't looked at it lately, and it kind of sucks. Now you created curiosity, and there's a conversation about to happen. And now instead of trying to sell it to him, you say, you know what? I I have some solutions for you. This is my card. Let's get yours. Okay. And then you pull out your phone right then and you go, listen, I got time tomorrow at 2 or Friday at 6.
What works for you?
Get together? And they're like, yeah, let's do, you know what? They got their phone out. Let's do Friday at 6. You're exchanging numbers and getting an appointment right now.
Yeah. So much more open. And I think that ability to be curious, to have curiosity, strategic curiosity, which I think is
asking good questions, because when you ask good questions, now you're in a position to provide solutions. Also, in the sales process, he who asks the questions is in charge of the time.
Oh, good point.
So when you're pushing information at somebody, I do this, I do that, I do this, you're not in charge, actually. You've given away your authority.
Not only that, you're probably boring the hell out of them, because you don't know what they're interested in at that point.
And if they start asking you questions and you let them keep asking, sometimes we see that like, oh, they're interested. If you give them enough information right now that they don't need to get together with you, you just inoculated them against touching what you're selling. You gave them enough of the information, like a little bit of smallpox, to keep from getting the smallpox.
Yeah. It's, I when I talk with people about LinkedIn, I say to them that, one big mistake is never following up, and continuing to offer value. The other mistake is not getting them into a sales conversation. You have to get them off of the platform, and that is, I think that concept is one that a lot of people miss. It's like, oh, I'm doing great. My social selling index says that I'm doing, I'm meeting enough people, I'm building relationships, but I don't have any sales. Well, if you don't, you can't just put content out there. And yes, you can eventually get sales that way. But there has to be that ability to move them, from here in the lead generation to the sales conversation.
Yes. And there's got to be, if you're doing the content type of thing, there's all these things that have to go with that. And a lot of times this is being left out of the conversation. So if you have great content, first of all, there's got to be call to actions on it, or it's not great at all. Okay. It sucketh.
Yeah.
It can be as pretty as you want. It can be as branded as you want, but it isn't going to bring you anything at all unless it's got call to actions. It's also got to be consistent, because people have to see you more than once. They used to say they took 7 to 14 touches, but since COVID, it's actually gone up to between 30 to 60 touches to get a sale. So consistency is incredibly important, but here's the biggest one that they won't tell you. Connections. What the hell are you doing creating 800 social media posts if you've got 36 followers on? What the bleep? Okay. I'm like, okay, why aren't you growing your connections? On LinkedIn, on X, on Facebook, Meta, whatever, on Instagram. If you're on the platform, then you need to also have a commitment to growing the connections. If you do not grow your connections, your only hope for success is ad buying, ad purchase. And that's a whole other game. It's about $3,000 a month just to start to play.
Yeah. So and you know what? They don't always work.
That's right.
They don't always.
That's not to succeed. That's to start to play.
Yeah. And those ads don't work. I just recently did an experiment with that on LinkedIn. I took a workshop that I was doing, and I only put $100 into it, but I wanted to see, how that measured up against my individually contacting people and getting a conversation started. It was dismal. It was over $12 per lead for that workshop, and that's ridiculous. I can do a lot better than that with individual, and I do a lot better at that.
Now, let me change that math for you, though. What if you were selling coaching at $1,000 a month? $12 a lead.
Oh, yeah.
All of a sudden changes.
Yeah,
if you're doing a $300 course, that's awful. But if you're doing $1,000 a month and you got 10 leads from it and you closed one and they were $12 each, then that was okay.
Yeah, you're right. That's a good way of putting it. Yeah, you're right. That's a very good way of putting it.
And by the way, Dr. Dumont,
please call me Dumont.
The repackaging thing is really critical in that scenario, because why are you selling the course when you could be selling the other thing that you get more money for, right? More consistent income.
Absolutely.
Why are we focusing on the little thing instead of the big thing that could actually, that's what we do now in our business. I no longer put out money, effort on the little memberships. They come, okay? What we put out the money for is the big packages, because if we're bringing in hundreds of thousands of dollars on bigger stuff, and then I want to run something on the little stuff, I have the money. It's no problem. You just pull out the credit card and whip her through. We're good, right?
You're
when I was
absolutely
focusing
right.
on that little stuff, okay, life sucked. It hurt. It was continuously trying to figure out how to rob Peter to pay Paul. As soon as you get into the bigger stuff, it's way better.
Yeah, and what you're saying, or what I'm hearing, is, number one, you have to grow that network and make sure that you have the right people in there. And I would add, have a network that is strategic and is very narrow in focus. In other words, these are the people who are either going to buy from you or make referrals for you, or, in some way meet what you need. Because if we have a huge network that has nothing to do with our product or our purpose, then it's not doing us any good.
It's true. We do need to be as strategic as we can. But when it comes to the reposting game, you can get lucky if you got big numbers.
Okay. Yeah.
If you got big numbers and they're not all perfect, but somebody saw what you did and reposted it and went to someone else who was perfect, that's going to still work for you.
Yeah. No, I'm thinking in terms of, of how the algorithms work, in content marketing. And that if you have a lot of people in that network who are just not your ideal client at all. I went from career coaching to now I help career coaches. So I have those people in my network, but they're kind of walled off. And I tell each of them, I no longer do career coaching. However, if you're interested in someone helping, in that area, that's fine. And it just pays to really think about who you're including in that network.
You know what? There's also something to be said for surrounding yourself with experts. Because if you surround yourself with experts, then you'll have quicker solutions to problems and you'll waste less time and less money. And that's what I've really done over the years. I mean, I don't just personally have solutions for people. I am also completely surrounded by others who have solutions for people. So, when I was, and I'll use the ad game as one of those things, when I was out there just trying to go to any marketer to get help with ads, they'll all tell you that they have the answers, and most of them don't. They're awful. And you have to spend thousands of dollars with them before you can prove they're awful. So now I'm surrounded by business owners and I'm surrounded by people who do different things, I now know who can actually get me results if I'm running an event, or if I'm, trying to get coaching ads to work, or if I'm trying to do something else, because I now have people in my connections who rock that stuff. Absolutely. But they're rare birds. And if you don't have the right connections and you haven't tested them yourself or had others in your network test them, then you don't know and you fall for their baloney.
Yeah, it's being able to judge that quality and take a really good read on it. Carrie, I wonder if there are, maybe 3 things that someone who is struggling with that whole concept of repackaging, 3 things that they might consider as they're looking at that.
So 3 things. First of all, if you're having trouble putting it together, if you're struggling with the money and the time, get help. Number 1, find a mentor, ask a question. I do personal consultations. Oh, by the way, I also have a great YouTube channel. That would be number 2. Go to my YouTube channel.
Go to your new YouTube channel.
Number 1, get help. Talk to someone else, get their perspective, okay? Or
is it Carrie George? Is that how they find your YouTube account?
Actually, it's CIBN TV, okay? CIBN TV. So
CIV is in Victor?
Yeah, it's here. I'll put it here. CIBN TV.
Yeah.
Hey, look, it's under my name now. So if you search that on YouTube, also when you go to YouTube, I have a, It's a playlist. There's a playlist there called Increase Your Revenue. And it's 9 methods to increase your revenue by $150,000 each. Each one of those things will do that.
Wow.
And the second video in that is repackaging. Okay, so you can watch the video and get even more about different ways to repackage. Okay, so that's a great resource.
And I'm going to drop something in the link that will take them there. And you also had I wanted to drop the resource in a brief explanation of it in the chat.
Absolutely. Now, another thing is, I know we've got a VIP gift. Let me finish the three things. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
The three things are: get help, get somebody else to look at it. Number one, go to our YouTube channel, watch that. Okay, that's a good thing on repackaging and the 9 things that would really, really help you. And let's see. Third thing is there's so many things I could tell you about this. Start looking at it from different perspectives. Here's a good one. You got this goal. Mm-hmm. Look at 3 different ways of hitting your goal. Okay, 3 different ways instead of just doing it one way, because you might miss it if we only go at it from one direction. But break it down and think of 3 ways that you could go after that goal. 3 things that you could do differently. 3 ways you could repackage something so that you now have options. And then after you examine the 3 things, pick one horse and ride it. Don't try to do all 3 at once. Put the other 2 on the shelf. Pick the one you think is the best or the easiest, the one you could attain the first because it's easy to do, or it's low-hanging fruit, or you only need one little piece to put it in place. Yeah. And do that one first, and then work it. And when you got it working, then go on to the number 2 and number 3. So that's what I would say to get
great advice, because so many of us have trouble focusing on just one thing at a time. In fact, I think there's a book called, Do One Thing or something to that extent. And it's very similar to what you're saying.
There's a lot of great books on focus. In fact, here's a great Carrie George quote.
Okay.
I'll give you a great Carrie George quote. Okay. There is no success guru anywhere that tells you that lack of focus and distraction is the path to success. Not anywhere.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
So focus is really important.
And as someone who lives in a house that it was built in many years ago, and has many unfinished projects all around, I just said this week, no, I've got to finish something here, before I move on. So that is, in all aspects of life, that's really good advice. Pick one thing, get it going right, get that, and then move on to that next thing and put it.
Yeah, you know what? This whole idea of multitasking is just life in the pit of hell. It's going to drag you into a vortex of things that are never finished and accomplished.
Yeah.
Focus is what gets things done.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a hard lesson. I know it took me many years to get that one. So, Carrie, I'm going to ask you if there's one last piece of advice that you'd like to give people on repackaging.
Yeah, you know what? There's so many things I could give you. I'd say watch the videos. Let's go back, watch the videos. CIBN TV, YouTube, watch those videos. Because it's not as easy as one thing. And what ends up happening is that, why I have 9 ways of actually increasing the revenue by $150,000 is when I work with people, I find that, 5 or 6 would work for any business. All 9 will work for membership or coaching businesses. Okay. But they're not ready for 8, 9, and 10. They might be ready for 1, 2, 3. They might have them out of order because they've already been doing a lot of work. By the way, LinkedIn strategies is one of them on there.
Okay, that's great.
I made $100,000 off LinkedIn for more than a decade. And so I'm right with you on that. I know that is so critical that people learn how to use that, especially if you're in B2B. I don't know why else you would be.
And B2C is catching up too. I mean, it's just, and they just passed 1 billion members, which is nowhere near the people on Meta and some of the other platforms, but it's a very focused platform.
A targeted group.
Yeah, it's a targeted group. So, that is amazing advice, Carrie. So I'm so glad to have you here, and I will point people towards your gift. And would you like to tell people a little bit more about, you have a gift that's just for VIPs.
Yes, I do. So what I have been doing what I've offered is time with me to actually talk about your business. And for the coaches in the room, I have a giveaway that I'll give them when they meet with me. I actually have a script that is made up on how to close for your coaching business, and I will give that to anyone who meets with me in person. And I'll do between half an hour to an hour. And I do bill out very high, about $2,000 an hour. So this actually has some value for you.
Wow. Yes, that is so generous, Carrie. That's amazing.
I love working with business owners. I love actually seeing that epiphany moment when they go, "Oh my gosh, I could do that. Oh, that's so easy. I'll go do it now."
Yeah, the classic light bulb. Well, listen, I know you're going to get lots of follow-up, and I am just so glad to have this opportunity to speak with you. And I will talk to you soon about appearing on my show. All right. So listen, thank you very much, Carrie, and I'll talk to you soon.
All right. We'll talk to you later.
Okay. Bye-bye.